It is Sunday night, one more time in the baseball season. We are here talking a lot of fantasy baseball on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. All coming up next. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are sponsored by DraftKings Pick 6. We appreciate them for the sponsorship all season long. If you could please rate or review the podcast, you enjoy listening to us all year, all those things, that'd be fantastic too. I am Scott Jenstad, joined finally again by Jeff Erickson. Been gone the last couple weeks. We had a couple of really good guests. Want to thank Vlad Sedler and Bat Flip Crazy for filling in for Jeff. It was fun to get to chat with them. But Jeff, good to have you back.
Good to be back. Always nice to step back in after having some improvements for 2 weeks, and you're stuck with me now again. But yeah, it's exciting times. We got 2 great races. We have manager firings, our Reds.
I was gonna say we got rid of David Bell.
I don't think David Bell was the problem. That's my take on the whole situation there. He has his shortcomings, yeah. I'm sure, but the real problem is they don't have any offense. And that's not. He's not the one that's, getting hurt. He's not the one that's failing to develop and regress. He wasn't hitting for Will Benson. Will Benson was hitting for Will Benson.
Yeah. I think more of a change of pace and change of scenery probably is more of the thought there. It's been 6 years, and it's just I think a spark of something. You got anybody you want them to hire?
Lord, no. I have no idea.
I
no idea how that works. And honestly, I don't know what makes a great manager. I really don't. I mean, I think there are some that, I think managing people is a huge part of that. I think some get the tactics pretty good. I think as long as you're not bad at it, you're fine.
What team you're managing, you different kind of guys for people.
Sure.
What team you're managing too. I think that, everybody could say it's easy to manage the Warriors when they were good or the Yankees when they were good. But I think it takes a different kind of person than it would for managing kind of an upstart young team too. So hopefully find some.
That's all I ask.
If it's Tony La Russa, you might have to switch teams like I did, but
yes,
exactly. We can't go with that. But Jeff, we're in the last week of the season. It's kind of wild that we are here, just real fantasy wise. Last week's strategy, picking up guys, dropping guys. Do you have any thoughts for how to attack this week? It's a really tough week. We don't know. We don't know right now what's going to happen in the last weekend. There's teams are going to clinch, teams aren't going to clinch, teams are going to be out of it and not start their guys. Someone you think might have 2 starts is not going to. Someone who you think might have 1 start in the weekend won't start at all or will pitch 1 or 2 innings. It is a very difficult week. It's hard to catch up. I feel like you got to kind of hit stuff right. I feel like sometimes you can lose spots, but that kind of doesn't make sense if you look at it both ways. But what kind of strategy do you look at in this final week? What are you kind of looking to do?
Well, I think you put it in the outline best, like hyper attention to categories. I think that's got to be the most important thing. If you're playing it categorically, if you're playing head to head and you're in your playoffs right now and you're playing the last week of the season, well, I think you're trying to do the best you can to fill every spot.
You're bats at that point. If you're in a head-to-head league like that, yeah,
exactly. Max out at bats. Max out starts if you can, but you might get the rug pulled out from under you too. So maybe max out relievers instead. I mean, try to figure out what your best position to do.
Yeah, and I think the key with like my bench is I definitely lean this last week to carry some more hitters. Your pitchers are going to lock Monday. And there's only 4 games Monday, but your pitcher going to lock earlier in the week. I want some flexibility for Friday moves. Once you set your 9 pitchers for the week, they're kind of set. That's all there is. You're not going to do much to it. So I like 1 or 2 bench pitchers in case someone gets scratched on Monday. We get some news on someone going to the IL. We get some guys to get hurt. But I'd like to have probably 5 hitters on my bench just because if guys do get banged up, I got to back up at every position. I can make moves on Friday based on if teams clinch and don't. So I think that having some flexibility on Friday is probably the most important thing that I do with my bench this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, just once those pitchers are locked, not much you can do about it. There's no point in having too many pitchers on the bench. So I do go with that. But looking at real baseball, man, this AL wild card is pretty wild. I think that a lot has changed since you and I last spoke when it was like Minnesota and Kansas City kind of cruising a little bit, but Detroit right now is tied with Kansas City, a game ahead of Minnesota, 2 games ahead of Seattle. Both Minnesota and Seattle lost today. Big losses there. Right now, the Tigers would be, and I have to admit, Tigers and Royals in the playoffs would be kind of fun. I'm kind of rooting for both squads.
Yeah. Well, it's just so funny. The Tigers traded away Jack Flaherty. They traded away Mark Canha. I say Canha because of that Sunday night broadcast where it's Canha, it's like that. It's Canha, whatever. But they traded away. They didn't add at the deadline. And then they caught fire. It was just like absolutely caught fire. And I love seeing it. The AL Central is just wacky. Joe Sheehan was writing about, go ahead.
No, I'm saying it is wacky. It's crazy that we might get 3 teams from the AL Central in.
Joe Sheehan was writing about the Kansas City Royals. They've lost 7 in a row. They've really a bit.
They're a mess right now. It's they looked like they were, I forget what the percentage was, but it was like over 90%. You're right, 7 losses in a row. It's pretty wide open right now. There's I know some Royals fans who are in full give up mode. They say they're done. I know that's fans being fans, but Royals fans are pretty down on this team right now. They can't score runs right now.
No, they can't. We've talked about this before. We've looked at their lineup.
Yep.
It's not a good lineup. Bobby Witt's amazing. Salvador Perez is awesome. They lost Vinny P though. That hurt.
They did.
But it's funny that Yuli Gurriel is actually hitting pretty well, but why not both, right? They needed that. The problem is they carried all these low OBP guys and it's finally coming back to haunt them at exactly the wrong time.
It is. It's me interested to see if they can hang on, and it's a tough. Got to figure out how to get it going. But man, 7 in a row, losing all your games the second to last week of the season is really tough.
Yeah, and interesting to see Seattle not dead yet.
Yeah.
They're not great. I mean, they've won 6 out of the last 10. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. But like you said, tough loss today. Big loss today.
It was, and they're they pitched well all year long. We've talked a bunch about their pitching staff. It's all 5 guys are really good. It's just that offense is just brutal. I mean, look at runs scored, and among those teams in the mix, they have the least amount of runs scored, but they do have the least amount of runs given up. So they can in a playoff series they can be really tough, but it's gonna be tough. They're 2 games out, but they got to pass Minnesota too, which is tough with 6 games left.
It is. And the Tigers, I'm just so impressed with their run prevention. That even after trading Flaherty, their pitching is better. Yeah. Their bullpen is sneakily pretty decent, even though we can't always identify the one guy that's really great. But they've got a lot of guys that have pitched in, and they've been pretty decent.
They have on the National League side. Speaking of bad losses, that Diamondbacks loss today was brutal. They had an 8-0 lead, lost 10-9 to Milwaukee. Now are tied with the Mets for the second wild card, but the Braves are 2 back. Mets and Braves do play the first half of this week. I think I read that the Mets win 2 out of 3. They're pretty much guaranteed to be in. They lose 2 out of 3. They still control their own destiny. They're in a really good spot right now. This team is playing really good baseball right now.
Yeah, they are. They're not going to get Senga back, but otherwise, I mean, they're pretty healthy, all things considered. I think the Braves, I mean, I'm impressed that they made it as far as they did, but yeah, I think that they probably are going to run out of time, or maybe they were time ran too long maybe for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
It is. They're going to have to win 2 out of 3 against the Mets at least, if not sweep. But if they do, they're still hanging in there. But man, that Diamondbacks loss, that was brutal. I can't believe they lost the game. They smoked Frankie Montas. It was 8-0, and I just flipped off. I was watching football. I'm like, all right, well, that's a huge win for them. They'll be maybe 3 up on the Braves. Mm-hmm. I looked up and I couldn't believe it was close. And then all of a sudden it was 10-9. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, it's just the Arizona bullpen has sneakily been kind of one of their weak spot all year, and it kind of came back to haunt them again. The funny thing is, they traded for Seawald last year. They traded for Puck this year. Puck was not the problem today, but Justin Martinez, go forth and Mantiply didn't work out very well. And it was a Jordan Montgomery game, and he actually wasn't awful, but he should have done more with an 8-0 lead. Didn't even get through 5, and that kind of came back to haunt.
Yeah, and I mean Arizona's offense is just so good. It'd be fun if they can hang in there and get in, because I mean they dominate and run scored right now. That whole lineup hits. Corbin Carroll. We'll talk in a second about the first round of 2025. Corbin Carroll was out of that discussion 2 months ago, and now is right like back in it.
Dunk in.
Yeah, I had him in the maybes, but it's probably leaning more towards slam dunk. He's had a really good second half, but it should be fun. I mean, at least we got some games that matter this last 2 weeks. We don't have a lot in terms of division wins. The only one that's kind of in the mix is the Dodgers and the Padres. Although the Dodgers comeback today was pretty huge to stay up 3 games. That snuck to 2. We might be talking about something this week, but seems like the wild cards. What kind of we watching this week? Although the Dodgers and Padres do play this weekend, or this week. So the Dodgers, if the Padres can can sweep that or get 2 out of 3, it's still not dead. 2 out of 3 probably is dead, but a sweep is right there, obviously.
So little known fact, the Padres actually control their destiny. If they don't lose again, they have the tiebreaker on the Dodgers. So that's a pretty narrow margin for error, but still it's pretty interesting.
That'll be a fun series. It is in LA, so a little edge to the Dodgers there, but they got Knack, Flaherty, and Buehler going for the Dodgers against looks like Michael King, Cease, and Musgroves. The Padres have it lined up pretty well.
Yeah, they do. They do. That trade for Dylan Cease, I can't praise the Padres enough for that. That we thought they were going to maybe punt the year because they traded away Juan Soto, but trading away Soto gave them the flexibility to add Cease, and they saw the opportunity and they took it. You got to give them credit for that.
And whatever they've done with him has been pretty good too, because his walk rate's down. His whip's 1.05. He was always a guy that we worried about the whip just because of all the walks, and he's got the walk rate at 8.4%. Swing strike rate's up, strikeouts are up. Whatever they've done with him, they've turned him from a really good pitcher into a great pitcher so far this year.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
They could be. I think they're a very, very live team in the playoffs. They got 4 good starters now that Darvish is back.
Yeah.
Obviously they got some offense. They're going to be a tough out.
Well, yeah, and so would it work that if the Dodgers get the 1 seed, then they'd be in line to play the Padres in the second round? Was that what they probably don't want to do?
I don't think the Dodgers want any part of that, the matchup in the first round.
Yeah. And that
but the Padres would be the higher if they I guess they
the Padres would be the 4, right? Because
assuming the 3 wins, right?
Right.
You're right.
Yeah. And it's by the they do reshuffle, but according to the seed. So it'd be like if the 3 seed lost, it'd be 1v6 then.
I think so. But my question for you is the Brewers, just say it's the Brewers are the 3 seed no matter what if they win the division, right? It's not based on record.
Yeah, correct.
The Padres have more wins.
That is correct. The division winners are the top 3 seeds.
Gotcha. Okay. And they stay the top 3 seeds the whole way through.
Yes.
So I gotcha. And then we got the first round is all best of 3, correct? All at the higher seeds park, all 3 games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I confused the rules over the years and COVID and all that, but that's, I think, so right now the Padres would host the Mets, I suppose. That'd be a hell of a series.
Yeah, it would be.
That's a fun first round series.
Yeah.
But so let's see a couple of other notes. The CJ Abrams news was kind of crazy this weekend.
Oh my gosh.
I looked up and someone tweeted or someone sent me the tweet that's like CJ Abrams went to AAA, then it was single A. And I was like, I was thinking is there something time, playing time with, or service time? I was like, no, obviously that's not it. He's been there all year. He was there last year. Out of the casino till 8 a.m. with a day game the next day. But obviously fantasy wise, if you have CJ Abrams in the lineup, not going to contribute to your team this final week.
Does that change where you're ranking him for next year?
It does not.
I didn't think so.
No. The fact that he's hit 200 the last 3 months might affect some of that for me, but no, the fact that he made a bad decision at 23, a bad decision, don't get me wrong, and a bad look to get caught in the casino at 8 a.m. when you have a day game at Wrigley Field I think it was Wrigley Field. I think they're in Chicago. That's just not a great look.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. But kind of a crazy story, though, in the way it happened. I figured the second I thought about it, I'm like, has to be some sort of punishment. There's no way they're sending the minors for any other reason or the fact that he's been bad lately.
Well, and that he was kind of outed by someone who happened to see him there. And all that, too.
You're CJ Abrams, someone's going to recognize you at some point in the casino, right? Yeah.
Sure. Of course.
That's so a little wild one there. Obviously, you could drop CJ Abrams this last week, but if you're competing for a big title or a league and you need a couple steals, it's a pretty big loss for the last week here. It
is. It's massive. Yeah. And trying to find the replacement this last week. Ugh, gross.
Yeah, that's there's not many options unless you're in a league where some of the injured guys coming back were available.
We'll get to the FAAB ones like that.
Yeah. Westberg, Ozzy Albies, Carlos Correa. There were some leagues where some of the guys are available, but it's a good segue though. Speaking of middle infielders and talking about next year, what do you say about Marcus Semien right now? This is someone who's been so rock solid for the last 4 of the last 5 years. This has been a really rough year for Semien, especially lately. I think since August 1st, he's around 200 or maybe under 200, right around there. But 232 on the year. His OBP is 301. So he's been bad in real baseball too. Only 7 stolen bases. That's down now 25 to 14 to 7 over the last 3 years, down to 22 home runs. The RBIs are down. Still has 95 runs, but hard contacts down in the 34% range. This has been a rough year. Is it just he's 34, maybe he's not the same guy anymore? Do you take this as a down year? Looking towards next year, what do you feel about Semien?
So, I mean, he's still got the 22 homers, still got 95 runs.
Yep.
But isn't this what we thought? This is what people said was going to happen the year he signed with the Rangers. Yep. And hey, you're eventually right. Yep. It just took you 3 years to be right, but
still has 689 plate appearances.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he should play a little less. I don't know.
That's going to it's going to be 4 straight years over 700 and 6 in a row if you take out COVID, where he's been over 700 plate appearances. That is an amazing stretch of games.
It is. It really is. I don't like all the exit velocity, hard hit percentage is all trending down.
Never been his calling card, but it's certainly not getting better. Yeah.
Right. So that does concern me quite a bit. He's not someone I'll take in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
After that, we'll figure about it.
Yeah, I don't
think
that's
where he's been going the last 3 years.
He was kind of a 2-3 turn or mid-3 guys the last couple of years. I don't think he's going to be probably close to that. Probably a 5th round guy next year. And it's just for me, it's whether the stolen bases are coming back. And at 34, my guess is they probably don't. But because he was a 25 stolen base guy 2 years ago, and that obviously makes a huge difference. If you're not, last year scored 122 runs and drove in 100, so you don't need as many steals. But he's got to steal probably 15 to 20 for it to work, and the batting average can't be 230. I know his BABIP's really low this year, but probably someone at 34 that I'm probably not digging into. And you'd have to get the huge plate appearances for it to work, and he's done that, but at some point he won't.
Jordan Westburg or Marcus Semien next year?
Probably Jordan Westburg for me.
Yeah, me too.
And I love Marcus Semien as an old A's player, and I love just a guy that works his butt off and made himself into a good fielder from starting out as a horrible fielder. So I love Semien. Went to school in the Bay Area, but I don't think I'd do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And Westburg, by the way, is 2nd and 3rd next year too, which is nice. That
definitely helps. You love covering those 2 spots. Real quick before we get into some FAAB for this week, and we'll talk about this week a little bit. But I want to look real quick at the first round of 2025. I always like to look at it kind of the last week of the season here. I had 10 locks for the first round. I'm just looking like main event ADP, just to use a blanket kind of formula here. I had 10 locks. Some of you think any of these are not locks. I got 7 hitters: Ohtani, Judge, Witt, Jose Ramirez, Soto, Elly De La Cruz, Gunnar Henderson, and 3 pitchers: Tarek Skubal, Paul Skenes, Zach Wheeler. Do you think any of those are up for discussion, not locks? I think maybe Wheeler's probably the one that
I was just going to say. Wheeler's probably at the turn. And so sometimes he'll go in the couple, early on, early in the second round. I think that thing is you're always talking main event with this, right? So
I'm just talking a 15-teamer competitive. We can use main event as what you want to do. But
I think specifically that league, because starting pitching will get, as we get deeper into draft season, all of a sudden you're going to get the starting pitching helium. It's breathtaking and it's real, and it happens every year. So Wheeler will probably be first round of most of those. But this year, didn't we have like 2, 3?
Yeah, it was 2, and then kind of some guys at the turn there. And so you're probably right. It's probably, if I'm looking at a top 17, I think Wheeler's a lock, but maybe not a top 15. The other 2 that I thought were really, really close to being locks are Francisco Lindor and Corbin Carroll based in the second half. But how do you feel about those 2 guys and kind of looking at the end of the first round?
So I'm going to declare that I was wrong about Carroll. Had Mike Farron on the podcast on Thursday from Sirius XM, and he's based out of Arizona. And it's kind of interesting that with Carroll, it wasn't the shoulder all along. It was, it's kind of the same thing that happens with golfers. He had a great year, but trying to get to perfection, and getting to perfection threw off his mechanics. And like he was overstriding, and he was even more vulnerable than usual on the high fastball. He got out of it. He figured it out. I think he's just a no-brainer. I mean, he's 100 runs locked in. I think he's a first rounder.
Yeah, I mean, he was a top 8 pick this year, and he's still at 230. So I wonder. I just think the second half. I think I agree with you. I think the second half, people will see that. They'll still see a guy who's going to be say 23, 30, 34, 35, something like that, based on this last week. If he has a couple steals, So I think the batting average will be kind of BABIP's 254. He's fast. I don't think we're going to have that problem again. The strikeout rate's down. Everything else kind of looks the same. I think he sticks in the back half too.
I do too. I think he's not even back half. I think he's like 8 to 10, maybe even.
Just so hard to see him ahead of any of the other 7 hitters I said already. But you think he goes ahead of Gunnar?
Yeah, I mean Gunnar is a little slower in the second half, right?
He has been, but still a monster year.
Yeah, I mean, and he is amazing. He's going to lose the third base eligibility, so it's only going to be shortstop. I mean, Corbin Carroll has 117 runs. He
leads the world in runs since the All-Star break. He leads that's
everything. Going into today. He might have had some more today. I didn't see his line today, but 32 stolen bases going today. He somehow got to 20 homers in a bad year. He's 20-30 in a bad year with 117 runs.
I feel like he had 3 or 4 like really late into the year too. Like he was no power for a long time.
Yeah. So I think I'd snap him up by 10 at the latest.
So that's kind of 12. Do you think Lindor is kind of locked in that first round? Do you think more of a early second?
I think there might be a league or two where he gets to the second, but I think he's in that 11 to 17 range.
He's been awesome in the second half. But the interesting thing is, like, we just named, we'll call it 12 guys right there. There is a slew of hitters right after that are super impressive and fascinating. I mean, you got Yordan Alvarez, Julio Rodriguez, Freddie Freeman, Fernando Tatis, Ronald Acuna coming back off injury, Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper, Kyle Tucker, Vlad Guerrero. Like that's like 8 or 10 more hitters that are awesome. The middle of the second round could be freaking good.
Yeah, it could be. It could be really, really, really good.
That middle of the draft and get 2 of those, like whatever, call them top 22, 23. Like there's some big hitters in the second round.
Yep. It's positioning to be towards the end of the first round, maybe a little bit there. So you get 2 of them.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, after those top 3 pitchers, and I talked with Toby about this a little bit, the pitchers fall off. Like trying to round out a top 5 on pitchers is really tough.
I see you listed.
I think I talked to Vlad about it. I talked to Toby about closers, but Vlad about pitchers. Like Chris Sale, Corbin Burns, maybe in the second round. I mean, it's funny. I think there's kind of the impression that Corbin Burns is like kind of had a down year, but you look at his numbers overall, like ERA is under 3, whip's really good. He's still going to be on a really good team. I think that Burns is pretty as solid as it gets. He just pitched. I mean, he's pitched another 189 innings so far this year. So 1 more start, he's going to be mid 190s, 295, 111. I mean, he's just any thought of him that not having a good year is kind of on. He's been really good.
It's the hyper focus on strikeouts and trend. It's also the trends.
Yeah, the K rate is down. You're right.
Yeah, that might lead some people away from it. And if so, I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't either. What do you feel about someone like Tatis? I mean, it's just been a bunch of time missed with injury this year, but obviously the talent is still there. He's been a first rounder in the past. He's still at 19 home runs and 10 stolen bases in 96 games, but it's hard to it's hard to trust that a little bit.
It is. It really is. Hey, he's peaked at 141 games last year, and that he basically didn't miss time because he was suspended at the start of the year, right?
Yep.
But he missed all of 2022. He missed so many games in 2019, his rookie year. So it's tough. He's not producing at the same like OPS. Like you look at OPS as a proxy, and he's not the same guy he was before the injuries and the suspension. And yet I'm so tempted. I think if I'm at the back of the first round, I might click on it once or twice. He's like the type of guy I want to have like 1 league with him in just in case, but I probably won't get him all the time.
There's going to be another huge. I mean, he's had a huge blow up year anyway, but it's because there's going to be more of those for sure. What do you feel about someone like Acuna coming back off an injury? How high can you push him up? I mean, obviously we're looking at someone that was the number 1 pick going into this year, 41.73 last year, an absurd line. Obviously this year was a big letdown, and then he got hurt. How high can you take Acuna?
I mean, I can't commit until sight unseen. This is the clear like.
No, you have to decide. You have to decide right now.
if I'm doing it. But the thing is, I'm not going to know until spring training. That's the problem. Yeah, if I'm doing an early DC, that's a real problem.
Or if we're in March and he's playing spring training and looks like Ronald Acuna, how much pause do you have in putting him in the first round?
I'll probably do it. Yeah. In part because I learned from not doing it last year enough. and more 2 years ago is when I really didn't do it at all. I was a totally doubting Thomas about him then.
Right. I think I was there too. Is he going to run? And then he steals 73 bases. That's kind of the group. I mean, it's a really interesting second round of a lot of veterans. I mean, Freeman, Harper, Mookie Betts, Kyle Tucker, a lot of Vlad Guerrero, a lot of guys that mid to late second round is going to be like stud veteran hitters.
What are you going to do with Kyle Tucker?
Oh man, I'm so scarred from this year. He was so good before he got hurt too. And I mean, you can't really blame him. I mean, he had a fracture in his whatever it was, his shin. I mean, he was just really hurt, but I mean, he's 30-25 in 2022, 29-30. He was 22-11 this year in half a season. He's got to be. I mean, I think middle second round. I'd snag him if he got there. I doubt he gets there, but we're talking about a lot of names. Someone's got to get there.
Yeah. There's going to be like those guys that don't run. Jordan, Freeman. They're going to slip. Someone's going to slip. Vlad. Vlad, I mean, could make a case for the first round. I mean, there's a lot. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of these guys could make a case for it there.
How high do you think people are drafting Emmanuel Clase next year? Just a monster season. Someone who's been a stud in the past. You always wary a little bit of relievers off peak years. But he's had 40 saves 3 years in a row now. I know the ERA is elevated last year, but 0.63 ERA, 0.63 WHIP this year. It's been an absurd season for Clase across the board.
It has. End of the second round. Probably won't get him.
Too. I think that, I think he's like a 2-3 turn would be nice, but yeah, you're probably right. I just wonder if people are wary about that. You get so many closers that kind of fail, but he's been so good. I think I was thinking 2-3 turn myself, but you might be right. It might be a little bit late, but I'm probably not doing the second round myself. And I love Clase, but I'm probably taking any of those hitters we named over him.
And that's the thing is that's my bias in drafting is I never take the early closer. I shouldn't say I don't take the first closer. Let me repackage that. I do take early closers but in some cases there, but I don't feel comfortable doing it. I never do.
If they're studs, it works. Like it's a huge anchor to have. I mean, it's really, really nice, but them flaming out just is flaming out healthy. I think is just more of a problem than any other players in that range. Obviously, anybody can get hurt, but just the loss of effectiveness can happen pretty quick with relievers.
Yeah. Couple people weighing in. Stephen Putney says Clase will go in the second. It'll be a mistake. Michael C says Tucker is a mid first round for me. We did mention him, but K percentage under 15%. I have a healthy distrust of the medical staff for the Houston Astros now. I mean, how can you not? They've done this a couple of times.
And I love Tucker too, but I don't think you can take him above those top 7 hitters I named.
No, I agree. Although Todd Zola is entering the chat right now, and he's like, "I'm taking him 3." No, I don't know. He may not be, but
he's been awesome, and he was awesome before he got hurt this year too. I just think it's just the recency bias that injury will probably push him. You're probably looking at a 1-2-ish turn on Tucker. I think next year ADP wise.
I think he'll go earlier if he crushes in the playoffs. I think he'll go back to being the mid first round.
Are the Astros in the playoffs, Jeff? I'm trying to ignore that.
Yeah.
What about some of the young guys? These are probably not first rounders, but do you think any of these guys get in the second round? I think you're looking at Jaron Duran, Jackson Chourio, Ketel Marte, not really the young guy, but someone who's been awesome this year. Same kind of boat. Willie Adames is in that range too. And then in the young guy range, Jackson Merrill. These are guys that you think get in the third round. How high do you think we're talking about? Let's go with Duran, Chourio, and Merrill to start. Do you think any of those guys we're
Duran,
talking like
easily second round?
Yeah.
And he's got 34 bags on 104 runs already.
Awesome, and going to lead off and locked into that role for sure.
Yep. I think Chourio gets there because I think people are going to elevate him. Yeah. And they might be right. I think sometimes, that there's still value. You push it. We're talking about how can we find value in Elly in the second round? Oh, well, guess what? Yeah. He found value.
Yeah.
He's a top 5 player. You that's $10 of value right there. People don't realize that.
Chourio's 271, 21, 21, and he's 20 years old.
Right.
and started really slow too. Like it just his come on. I mean, I think he's going to be just a hugely hyped guy. I think he might get into that late second round. I think people are going to love to want to grab him.
Yep. What if I told you there's a player with 38 homers, 110 RBI, 11 stolen bases, and hitting 299? We haven't mentioned him yet.
In a extreme pitcher's park too.
Yeah. Where does Brent Rooker go?
Yeah, I think you
understand the joke there.
The rest of his career, kind of holds him back from being too high. But man, this year has been 11 stolen bases too. Like this year has been unbelievable. I don't know. He's probably like a mid fourth round kind of guy. Is that about right? It's going to be hard. We don't know how the Sacramento Park's going to play yet.
We do though. We have minor league equipped. We have we've seen what happens in the PCL.
So apparently I said that last week and Paul Sporer jumped in saying he and Justin Mason on their podcast did something that someone said that it actually plays more of a pitcher's park, but I think that might've been a pitcher's park compared to the other parks in the PCL.
Right.
So I'd have to look into it to see, but I have a hard time believing that in Sacramento, it's not playing pretty hittery, but you take him from Oakland into a hitter's park, that becomes pretty interesting. I mean, he was 30 home runs last year too. So not like it's fully out of nowhere. And you look at like barrel rate and hard contact, it's all really legit. He dropped his strikeout rate 4%. It's still a little too high, but he's out of the 30s into the high 20s. He's hitting 299 too. It's crazy how good a year he is.
If Brent Rooker was like a hyped prospect and just in his original team, we'd be talking about him as a second round player easily. Yeah. But because he kind of surfaced from a different team, he's on the A's where everybody kind of overlooks it a little bit there.
And he's 29, which makes a difference too.
Of course.
Yeah.
But this isn't a keeper league. We're talking about next year, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the year is just, and every time I look at him, I'm like, maybe it's been a little, it's just been all legit. He strikes out too much is the only really problem there, but it's tough. So some of the chat mentioned Mookie Betts. We did mention Mookie Betts among that like kind of second tier of hitters. So he will definitely be a early second rounder, probably the kind of thing is if I had to look at it, would my guess.
Yeah.
But
by the way, Brent Rooker, how many organizations has he been in?
I know Minnesota and Oakland, but I don't know beyond that.
4. He's also been a Padre.
Okay.
And he's been a Royal. The A's selected him off waivers from the Royals in November of 2022. So basically meaning he didn't make the 40-man roster. They decided not to protect him.
He actually played 20 games with the Royals in the majors. I do not remember. I remember with him in Minnesota. I do not remember him with the Royals at all.
Padres traded him to the Royals for Cam Gallagher, who we remember fondly, I'm sure.
Fondly, yes.
But he was a former first-round pick. This is a fascinating career, by the way.
It is a fascinating career.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so many teams whiffed on it. It's kind of like, Jose Bautista, some other, a lot of teams that it just didn't click. And all of a sudden it's clicked with Oakland of all teams.
It has. There's been so many stats out there that like since July 1st, Lawrence Butler and Rooker together like equals Judge and Soto, which is just crazy because Judge and Soto have been unbelievably awesome all year. And they've been the whole year. And these guys just been the second half. But I mean, Rooker and Butler have been unbelievably good for like 3 months now.
Yep. And so even if it's not the hitter's haven that we think it is, it's still got to be better than Oakland.
It's got to be.
Yeah. So I think if we're not talking about him in the first 3 rounds, I think that's wrong. So we'll see, but maybe I'll change my tune if I'll dig into it a little bit more, but I'm persuaded right now that I think he's a top 2 round player and at worst beginning of the 3rd.
I think you'll get him there.
Yeah, maybe because people think the counting stats won't be there, but he's got them this year. So
we've obviously talked about like 35 guys in the first 2 rounds too. So there's that. Like someone's got to get out of these first 2 rounds.
We didn't mention J-Ram, by the way, either.
Oh, we mentioned him as a lock for the first round.
Oh, that's right. We did mention.
Yeah. He's a deadlock. If he go 40, he's still got a chance at 40-40.
Yeah, he does. Okay,
I mean, lost
over these locks. Yeah, that's right.
Lost in the 60-60 we're seeing in LA out here, but I saw a joke about 60-60 for Ohtani, and then all of a sudden he hits a home run and steals a base every day. So I wouldn't put anything past the guy, but we might be 55-55. But yeah, I mean, Jose is at what's he at 37-40 right now? So 40-40 would be tough. He'd have a big week with 3 homers, but I mean, we're talking about an insanely season. It's a good season. 109 runs, 112 RBIs, hitting 274 right now. J-Ran's been unbelievably good.
Just the wrong year. Wrong year to feed him there, but that's awesome.
Yeah, he's been great. Last 2 I mentioned real quick, Ketel Marte and Willy Adames, kind of the veterans who've had huge years. You put them kind of middle 3rd, late 3rd, somewhere in there, because I mean they've both been awesome.
Yeah, probably. Well, I'm going to have a hard time doing that. I just feel like with Adames, it's the batting average always scares me, but Man, I mean,
he's thrown the stolen bases in this year too, which has been a huge difference. Yeah.
You ignore him at your peril.
Ketel Marte has 35 home runs.
Yeah.
Kind of wild. I mean, he missed some time too. He's played 130 games after today, but he's upped his hard hit rate 11%, his barrel rate up 4%, all fully supported. He was I'd have to go back and listen to our target show we did the year there, but he was actually our second baseman, so we have one win there at least. But he's been awesome. He's been on a couple of my teams. I actually drafted him in places, so it's worked out well. But he's gonna be fully drafted next year for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. And hey, second base is a tough place to fill sometimes.
It's a fun time right now. There are a lot of stud young hitters in baseball. Like the guys we listed, like most of them are young. It's been awesome. It's been fun. It's a fun. It's been kind of a weird year in some ways, but it's fun. A lot of these young guys emerging, and there's some huge studs. Yeah. Someone asked in the chat, Jazz Chisholm is going to be, he's 23-37 right now, hitting 256 after today's game. We stole a base today, so 23-38. Quietly a monster year for Jazz. He kind of started slow. He got traded in the middle. He was stuck in the Marlins. But, man, 38 stolen bases. It flew by his career high by a bunch. Yep.
Are we allowed to reveal now that this is Vlad's guy?
You could probably reveal it now. Yeah, it looked like it wasn't going to happen for a while, but man, he's easily been worth the value of where he was drafted.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're going to get like better position eligibility next year too.
And he's with the Yankees for another couple of years here too.
Yep.
So it's a good place to hit, good lineup to hit in, good for counting stats. I think we're probably talking 3-4 turn sort of guy.
Yeah.
And then we got the young guys like Wyatt Langford's going to be back. We talked about Chourio, but Langford has come on in the second half. I think that he's been, probably disappointing overall for where he got drafted. He got pushed way up in the early season once we knew he was going to make the team. But I mean, you still look at his season. He's got he's at 12-16, so a little middling there, but definitely has been much better in the second half. I think he'll be pushed up again.
I agree.
Yeah. A few news and notes before we talk about a little bit of FAAB. Obviously not a lot of FAAB to talk about this week, but we mentioned the Mets. Francisco Lindor is the big news here. He's missed the last 6 games. He's hoping to be back on Tuesday against Atlanta. His quote today was not great. It's pretty much like, I'm not going to be pain-free, but if I just want to be not in pain all the time if I bend over. Like, it sounds like he's got the back's really a problem.
Yeah, we know these don't go away. I mean, originally it was like, hopefully only miss 2 or 3 games. Yep. People, had him active this week, hoping that he'd come back. It's just,
these are massive games too. So he's hurting because he definitely wants to be out there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so that's it's one of those ones tough. There's only 4 games tomorrow, so at least there's that you can kind of see. It's a pretty good chance you'll be able to look at Lindor's the Tuesday lineup and decide whether you want to play him or not. We mentioned Yordan Alvarez earlier. We're talking about kind of that second tier hitter. He hurt his knee sliding at second base today. It was noted as a knee contusion, but there was a note tonight that he's going for an MRI. He's going for imaging tomorrow. That's a big hold your breath right there because the Astros without him are not the same team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a big one.
And he's had that. He's had plenty of history too, where we've been holding our breath on that.
And the Astros have no reason to push him this week. So fantasy-wise for the final week, they're up 5 on Seattle. They're 5 behind Cleveland for the 2nd seed. So they're pretty much locked in the 3 seed, barring something, a 6-0 week and an 0-6 week. But they're locked in the 3 seed. They have no reason to push anyone next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're like the most locked in of all these teams. The Yankees are only 2 ahead of Cleveland, so they still have to win games. Houston's the one team that's kind of stuck where they are.
Yep. There's value in that for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Kenley Jansen, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Is he going to, when the Red Sox are fully out of it, they're going to shut him down. The Red Sox are obviously fully out of it now. They have been for a little bit. He went the 15-day IL this evening, so he is done for the year. If you have Jansen, make sure you have a replacement for him starting tomorrow.
And Rafael Devers, too.
Yeah, good ad there. Also on the Red Sox. Didn't sound like he's going to have surgery, but inflammation in both shoulders. It's been pretty clear there's something bugging Devers for a while now. You could tell he's a lot of notes and comments and a few missed games here and there. It seems like the shoulders have really been bugging him.
Yeah. By the way, there was the rain out the other day, and so they had the doubleheader today, and it was a split doubleheader. Like that's just it's kind of evil when you think about it. When you're already out of it, I mean, they swept the Twins too, so I mean, it's like insult to injury as far as that goes. But Yeah.
I guess if they're probably both sellouts on the final home weekend of the year, that they probably already have sold all the tickets for both games is my guess.
Yeah, I
guess.
No,
I guess they're home next weekend, so they could have figured something out. But yeah, that's I don't know. I agree with you. I think that's you just kind of
I hate split doubleheaders anyhow.
I do too.
But then I get the logistics. If they were sellouts, I guess.
It's a wild split doubleheader to completely change the subject for a second. Have you seen the U.S. Open where they do the early and late, and there's thousands of people waiting outside the gate for the other matches to end? It's so weird. I can't believe they do that split ticket too.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where they try to maximize the funds.
Yeah. But it's just it seems like a wildly impossible logistic thing. Every night there's just people waiting everywhere, and it just seems like a total mess out there.
Well, have you ever been to first two rounds of the NCAA tournament? First day,
clear out the arena too.
If you get two games, then you got to get out, and then it's wild.
It is. I've been to many of those. Couple other IL notes, just guys that obviously you can drop and make sure you place them. But just a heads up, Sonny Gray on the IL had a really good year, but he went on the IL, not going to pitch this week. Max Scherzer, same thing. Obviously not a good year. He's been hurt pretty much most of the year, but he went on the IL too. So make sure you get him out of there. Oh, it's like you mentioned Todd Zola, Jeff, earlier, and he jumped in the chat. He's they're allowed to have split double headers due to the low capacity of Fenway Park is his note there. So Red Sox fan coming to defend his Red Sox.
Yeah. Or just share us information.
Or Todd Hurst talked about Kyle Tucker and Ketel Marte and figured he had to jump in because those are two of his favorites right there.
There's a disturbance in the force, I feel.
Luis Castillo won't start in the Houston series. Seattle and Houston play each other the first half of this week. Might pitch on the weekend in Oakland. He's a tough call. If Seattle's in it, obviously they're going to pitch him, but he's coming off the IL. Do you throw him this week? What do you do with this one? I think I probably do.
I guess, but what are the odds that he gets through 5?
Yeah, I guess my thought was one of the odds that you have a 9th pitcher that you feel better about.
That's a fair counter.
In this last week where nobody's going to really throw a lot of innings. But then randomly someone will throw a complete game shutout, which is usually the way it happens too.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Brenton Doyle, speaking of breakouts this year, missed the weekend with soreness in his left knee. Make sure you check that one. I should have mentioned Bailey Ober with the Todd Zola guys too. I should have mentioned that too. Speaking of the Red Sox, Tyler O'Neill, you mentioned the doubleheader. They missed both of those games. Minor back tightness. As we know, with Tyler O'Neill, anything you get any kind of issue like that, you may want to check that one because he's someone that misses some games now and then. So you want to make sure he's in the lineup. Red Sox do play tomorrow. They're one of the 4 games tomorrow. They're playing at Toronto, so we should know about his status there.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's the thing is, they're not officially eliminated, but they're basically out of it there. So yeah, makes sense. At least none of those 4 games are during the day. That would have been annoying.
Yeah, no day games tomorrow, which is nice. Yeah, I guess you're right. The Red Sox aren't fully eliminated, but they're
them and the Rays both are technically alive.
Yeah, but you got to jump 2 teams to then get into it. It's right. really a tough path. But let's talk a little bit of FAAB. There was a lot of pickups to make this week. Obviously, you want to make sure your team is full and ready to go. First note of our sponsors at DraftKings Pick 6. Do you ever play the over-under game with your friends? Think I can eat that slice of pizza in under 30 seconds, or I know it'll take you over a minute to down that 2-liter soda. If you have, you're going to love Pick 6, the fantasy game from DraftKings. Here's how to play during baseball season. You got a week left to do so. Pick between 2 and 6 players and choose if they have more or less of a stat, like runs, hits, strikeouts, and more. Track your picks and play against others for a shot to win huge cash prizes. That's all there is to it. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code RWPICKS. New customers play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. That's code RWPICKS. For new customers, play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus in most eligible states. Not eligible in all states, including New York and Connecticut. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Steven in the chat, you're welcome for me talking you out of benching Dylan Cease. That one worked out really well. Every once in a while, I have a good call, so I'm glad that one worked out for you. Jeff, were there any starters this week you liked? I found it really tough to find starters. Jack K is what I call him, the Angels pitcher, because I don't want to say Kakanowitz too many times. He's 40% rostered in the main event. He has at the White Sox at home Texas. I like that as a 2-step. He was available in your league, but pickings were pretty slim to find starters this week. It was tough to find them. I like Brady Basso a little bit, Oakland, but his 2-step went away. Mitch Spence is pitching on Tuesday instead. Mm-hmm. Who are you looking at if you need a starter this week? I know.
If Brett Lauder's available, go get him still. But
I'd love that. That was weeks ago in my league. But Lauder's been good.
Yeah, he's been great. I love him. But Kakanowitz has 20 Ks in 51 innings.
Does he really? Is it that low? That's brutal.
Yeah, I can't.
It's the White Sox though, so that evens that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
My God, his K rate is 9%.
Yeah, I can't. But yeah, maybe you have to. But that's last week of baseball. I mean,
if you need a win, a starter going against the White Sox gives you a chance for a win.
Yeah, the problem is we don't know if he'll get that second start. But yeah, White Sox start is as good as it gets. So to that end, I mean, pay attention to who else is here's who the White Sox are facing this week. It's like a reverse Coors Field though.
It is
Kakanowitz, Suarez, Tyler Anderson, Casey Mize, Herder, and Skubal to finish. I hope that Skubal start matters.
Or if not, it means the Tigers are in it, which would be kind of fun too.
That's another way of
if Skubal had to go on Sunday to get in, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they'd rather they be in, obviously, so they can use them in the playoffs. But yeah,
for sure. Other names like Patrick Corbin is actually pretty usable. He's facing the Royals this week, who have been not good offensively.
That's
so
true.
I think and Corbin's been pretty solid. I know that this first half of the year was pretty rough, but he's been pretty good the last 6 weeks or so. Same theory. Grant Holmes in Atlanta. He pitched 4 innings today, so maybe he doesn't go 5, but he faces the Royals also. Your friend Jake Junis in Cincinnati has been pretty good. He's been really good his last 4 starts or so. He's been quite usable this last month.
Yeah, he has. He was a guy I liked at the beginning of the season, but I was wondering if they'd be able to stretch him out, the Brewers, that is. And then he got hurt his shoulder. So I just, cut him in everywhere. Reds get him, and he's actually been good. Montas until today had been better with the Brewers than with the Reds.
Boy, did that blow up on him today, though. That was rough.
It sure did.
But there was kind of nobody else. I was looking at those names. It started places that need wins. The Kakanowitz was kind of 2 starts. Jonathan Cannon, but he has 2 starts, but they're with the White Sox. Like if you need wins, that's not a good place to go. He doesn't have a lot of strikeouts either. It was slim pickings. It was kind of one of those weeks you had to hope that you had 9 guys that you were ready to throw anyway.
Yeah, like I think we picked up Richard Fitz, but he's like the Red Sox version of Kakanowitz in terms of strikeouts.
Yeah,
wasn't allowed to run yet, but earn run yet, but I don't think that's sustainable.
That's a pretty good stat, though.
Yeah,
that'll work. What about relievers? If you need a save or 2 this week, I mean, the obvious one in 12-teamers. I'll mention him again. We talked about Luke Weaver the last couple of weeks, but he's only 50% rostered in the NFBC RotoWire Online Championship, which is 12-teamer. Like he's clearly the guy. Clay Holmes wasn't good again today. I know he didn't give up any runs, but he gave 2 base runners and got 1 guy out, and they took him out. Jesus Tinoco is kind of probably the best guy in main event. He's about 2/3 roster. I don't know if the Marlins will get any save offs, but he clearly is getting the save offs from the Marlins right now.
Yeah.
And his pitched really well too.
I mean, I don't think we can afford to be picky. I mean, you just, hold your nose and get whoever you can.
Yeah. I mean, saves are usually really, really bunched up, and that makes it tough. But I mean, Tinoco's whip is under 1. He's been really good lately, and he's clearly the guy. You just have to hope the Marlins somehow win 2 games this week and then get that works out. Yeah,
that's right.
I think AJ Puck's interesting. He seems to be maybe splitting a little bit with Justin Martinez right now. Puck has been really good as a reliever this year. I know the starter experiment has not worked well, but Puck has been very good lately. And I think if matchups work, he may get a save or 2 this week.
He might. And at the very least, you're getting probably a couple of good innings. You're probably getting a couple of Ks, and that might be enough.
And you may steal a win in there. I kind of thought maybe Tanner Scott with Robert Suarez, scuffling a little bit, but Suarez got the save today, pitched pretty well, so maybe that kind of gives him a little bit of a leash back. We talked about Kenley Jansen going the aisle earlier. We've talked about this before. We talked about Jansen and who would be next. I guess probably Chris Martin would be the guy I'd pick up right now if I had to do it. Maybe it mixes and matches, but I think Martin is kind of the setup guy that is also really good. I mean, I know he hasn't been quite as good this year as he was last year, but still a really good pitcher. He has a 1.2% walk rate in the year, which is pretty wild itself. But I think Martin would be the guy that picked up if I had to pick up someone there.
Yeah, I like that. He's always been a pretty good pitcher. This year hasn't been his best year, but he's always been pretty darn good.
He's got 2 walks this year, and one of them was intentional.
That's insane.
Is that crazy? That's a wild. He's got 48 strikeouts and 1 non-intentional walk.
That's nuts.
That's like that's like Dennis Eckersley 1990 kind of stuff right there. That's crazy. Yeah.
Bob Tewksbury, if we want to go in that era.
That's a name right there.
Yeah.
Similarly in kind of scuffling situations, Sir Anthony Dominguez has been pretty rough for Baltimore. I think the Yennier Cano maybe has chiseled his way back in there a little bit too.
Yeah, but he wasn't good as a closer.
He wasn't either.
But again, hold your nose, get the guy.
Man, Baltimore's a team that needs to get steam going. They've been struggling too.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, so many times we see this, like teams will falter down the stretch and then all of a sudden they catch fire in the playoffs. So they got Westberg back. They can get anything out of Grayson Rodriguez. They could be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, they can get Adley Rutschman going too. I think I saw a chart the other day that like his entire season changed once he got hit. He got hit in the hand by a pitch.
Yeah,
he was like all world, and then just fully dropped off. So I wonder, it's just one of those things that maybe it's been bugging him all year, and they need him and they can't take him out. But he's been really bad the second half.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Essentially, no. You mentioned Grayson Rodriguez. Todd Zola in chat mentioned maybe he could close if he comes back. That's an interesting thought too, because they need someone to pitch those last inning or two.
Well, they did talk about him coming in relief, so that makes sense.
That'd be interesting. It's interesting enough. Hitters were actually kind of in abundance this week. There's a lot of interesting names to pick up in hitting wise. The top two are ones that you're coming back from injury if they were available in your league. Both Ozzie Albies. He was about 40% rostered in main events, obviously lower in the 12 teamers. Jordan Westberg is 53% rostered in the main event. Both those guys are pretty much slam dunks. Like the first thing I did was look at my league, see if those guys are available. Because I mean, give me those guys all day for the last week of the season here.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you have them available, or were they taken in your leagues?
Well, we cut Westberg at one point in time, so
he was available at some point.
Yes. No, I don't think he was available in our league this week, but I think someone snapped him up. When did they snap him up? Probably shortly after we cut him 2 weeks ago. So yeah, not even last week, but 2 weeks ago.
Late season bidding is always strange because nobody has money, but there's always that one or two guys that do have money. So you see some guys go for 20, but I got Albies in one of my main events for $3. So that worked out pretty nicely. And Westbrook went for 4. So it's one of those leagues where nobody had money. It's been so active. But my other main event, guys went for 25, a couple guys went for 20. So it really just depends on who had money and who was watching football or not today.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy that I really liked, and Vlad and I talked about him last week, and it actually worked out well this week. He hit 3 home runs, is Jonathan Aranda in Tampa, hitting 4th every day for them. He was still 44% rostered in the main event. 2 of those were mine, I'm happy to say, but he's been good. He's had 3 home runs this week as a guy that was a prospect. He's a pretty good hitter. Mm-hmm. He's just playing every day, which is nice. He's hitting 4th every day. I really like that as a pickup. He was my everywhere he was available, he was the top guy that I wanted to get.
Post-type sleeper.
Yeah. He really is. I like that one. I think he had 3 home runs this weekend too, which was really nice. So I like that one. We talked about CJ Abrams earlier. This guy Nasim Nunez could he played today at shortstop. 52 stolen bases in Double-A last year. He's got 6 in only 56 plate appearances this year. If you need stolen bases, I feel like Nasim Nunez was a sneaky guy this week that probably plays every game. I think he's going to play every day for Abrams, and if he gets on base, I think he'll run.
Yeah, it could be one of those. Yeah, well, he could be a league winner with 3 stolen bases this week.
Yeah, it's big though. Yeah, some of the chat, Mount Aranda mentioned the Rays do face a few lefties. That is a problem. I'm hoping he's going to play anyway, but I think I'm going to play him anyway. Hope he he plays 2 out of 3. I think that'll be good enough.
Yeah.
Did you do anything with Luisangel Acuna? We talked about Ronald Acuna earlier. Acuna, he's playing every day with Lindor out. This is one of those plays that I was a bit wary because Lindor comes back. I don't think he plays, but he's been really good in this little stretch. He has been playing.
Yeah, he has been. He had a magical week.
He did.
Yeah. It really does it's contingent on Lindor for the most part there.
It's really tough because he could play every day or he could play like once or twice. He probably plays more than once, but if he plays once or twice pretty quick. And he was tough because I need guys that would play this week. So I kind of stayed away, but I'm really scared that'll burn me because he's been on fire.
Yeah, he has. I guess he could play some second, but they'd like Iglesias. So I don't think.
Iglesias has been good. It's not that he's been good too. He's really hit.
Yeah. What a world we're living in here. Where
it is.
Jose Iglesias is hitting 335
and playing almost every day and like singing. He's kind of the team mascot too. Like they all love him. It's been wild. He's been actually legit really good.
Yeah, he has.
I was looking. I think he's at like 3-something, like 360 or 370 since April 1st. So I looked that up earlier.
Yeah.
He's at 331 since April 1st. Only one home run. Obviously, you're not gonna get a lot of counting stats, but man, he's got 20 runs scored. He only 8 RBI, but the average has certainly been there.
Yeah, it sure has. Yeah, it's one of the guys. One of the reasons why the Mets are where they're at right now is that they got these guys to step up. McNeil's hurt. Lindor's hurt. Okay, we'll put in Iglesias and Acuna. No problem.
Yeah, Tyrone Taylor has a couple of big hits. It's been fun to watch. The guy that I love there is Mark Vientos. We talked about him many months ago when he picked him up and all that. But man, this guy, now they let him play every day. This dude can just hit. I love watching him hit.
Where does he go next year?
It's a really good question. You have no speed, which is obviously a big factor, but the hard contact's legit. Strikes out too much. I think like a top like 60 to 75, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we're going to find is it's hard to find a good third baseman.
Yeah.
So,
and he's played 105 games. He got 25 home runs too. Like you put that on a full season pace, that's a lot of home runs. And I think the power is just absolutely legit too.
Yeah.
So there are about 30 other offensive guys that I listed out. My bids with this week were very long, just making sure that I got guys in positions. Is there anybody else that you really, really like? We got some Angels guys. Eric Wagaman's playing every day at third base for them. And then Gustavo Campero's playing the outfield, some speed there. Jordan Adams got banged up a little bit. But what did you do? Was there any other hitters you find yourself really trying to get for this last week of the season?
I'm kind of curious to see if Nick York is for real. But, I mean, he does have the bags so far, but no power since getting called up. But he actually put together a good, like, kind of bounce back year, prospect year.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to see what he's got, because he was a guy that was hyped at one point in time.
He was. I definitely looked at him too. It looks like again, one of those guys, we're just looking for guys that are playing every day. I think he's played 5 of 6, something like that. He's still only 22. So that's, it could be interesting there. There's some stolen base guys. Like I think I mentioned Nick York, a stolen base guy. Michael Ciani in St. Louis could be a stolen base guy too. If you need a couple bags, it's an interesting one there. Jared Triolo kind of falls in that bucket too. Second, third base eligible.
In the league, yeah. He's
played a ton. He's had a ton of at bats last month. He's just playing every single day there. There's just a lot of guys like that. Someone's going to hit a couple of home runs. Lennon Sosa playing every day for the White Sox, had a big home run earlier this week. But man, it's so hard in 1 week. You're just trying to get at bats and hope that you hope your guy runs into a couple or gets a couple of bags.
Yep. Hunter Goodman might be interesting if you can find him in a 12. Rockies at home to finish the season. Yeah,
it's a really good point. Rockies are home all week.
Yep. We'll see who they face. Like, is Yamamoto going to make that start or not? Tony Gonsolin's back. Wow.
The Dodgers really hope Yamamoto doesn't make that start.
Yeah.
If they're still playing on Saturday, that means that San Diego's beat them at least 2 out of 3 if didn't sweep them.
Right.
You say Tony Gonsolin's pitching Friday? Is that what you said? That's wild. He hasn't pitched all year, right?
I think you're right. On our projected starters grid.
No, he was really good in his last rehab outing. I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, could he make the playoff roster? That would be wild.
So you mentioned, we joked about it earlier. What is there? It's Yamamoto, Flaherty, and then what?
Buehler, I'm guessing.
Oh God.
I think they got to roll the dice with Buehler. I mean, everybody else is hurt. I think
I can't say that you're wrong. I think you're right. I think it has to be Buehler third.
At least he struck out 9 guys on Saturday, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, the fact that they lost Gavin Stone. I mean, that was a guy that was having a nice little breakout year, and you're like, okay, well, at least they'll have him as like their 3rd or 4th starter. Yep. I mean, who knows if Kershaw is going to be available? It could be.
He threw like 30 pitches in a bullpen or something, right? You can't just seem that close.
Yeah, but maybe they have him pitch 3 innings in a game. They go Johnny Holstaff. I mean, thing is, they do have a relatively deep bullpen. I mean, besides Anthony, I fought the wall and the wall won Banda. I mean, I think they've got some decent relievers now.
So you guys, you go Buehler 3 and then Knack 4 if you need a 4th, and maybe hope you don't. Yeah. If you need a 4th, there's probably Knack, who seems like he throws some gems out there, and a little inconsistent, but it's tough. The injuries are brutal for them. It's still crazy. They have the best record in baseball. I know I mentioned this for you before we started, but I looked up and they have a better record than the Phillies now. They have 93 wins. They have the most wins in baseball right now, which is pretty amazing with all the injuries they've had.
Just shows how everything's kind of moving towards the middle, I guess. But
yeah.
Did you see the note that they still might consider Shohei as a reliever in the playoffs there?
Can you imagine how electric that would be if he comes in and pitch the 8th in a close game?
Yeah. People are going to they're going to go nuts over that one way or another, positive or negative.
This season is unbelievable, man. I mean,
yes. It's really bananas.
He's 53, 55 right now.
Yeah.
And like a month ago or a month and a half ago, we talked about like joking about maybe he gets to 50-50 and like he's blown by that. It's just that game he had. I know we talked about it before, but that game he tied the night with the 10 RBI. I mean, it's the dude's unbelievable. It's so fun. It's just really crazy to think about when we drafted. It was like the 36-hour window when we thought he might get suspended, and we're at 53, 55 right now.
Yeah. It's incredible. I love how like as he got closer to the milestone, he accelerated. Most players they tighten up.
He went for it, man. He wanted it badly. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah. Well, and credit to Skip Schumacher for saying, I think you could see him mouth F that when they asked him whether he's going to pitch or walk Ohtani. He's no, we're going to pitch to him, and kudos for that. At least, of course, it's easy because he's already on the way out anyhow. He doesn't have to worry about job security, so go for it.
Yeah, the team who is leading the main event, Ohtani 13, Judge 18.
That works. That works.
Is that the most? What's that? 108 home runs?
Yeah, pretty wild.
It's crazy right there. We've got Jason Santu. He corrected me on his how to say his last name. Thank you, Jason. 1-2 right now in the main event. I don't know if you looked at all. He has the top team and the second team.
Wow, what a year!
I don't think anybody's done that fully. That's pretty impressive. Our friend Clark Olson's in third right now. Greg Martin is in fourth. Tony and Dave McDonald are in fifth. And Eric Drescher is in sixth right now, playing his first main event ever, which is pretty well. Sixth overall.
Good for him.
Jenny Butler, who knows Eric, reached out to me. You know Eric too. You've seen him.
Of course.
He's with Jenny in Vegas. Reached out to me and said it's the first time he's playing the main event. Sixth overall is crazy impressive.
Yeah, smart guy. Knows his soccer. He
does. That's right. You guys talk soccer. I knew there was some sport you guys talked that I didn't know anything about. I wasn't sure if it was soccer or hockey. I figured but soccer makes sense.
Yep.
But starting Ohtani Judge, like that's a crazy start.
Yes, it is. It's a good way to go about life.
Yep. And it was there. It was there in March too. It was there for a lot of teams in that spot.
I think you and I talked. We saw one main where he went 10 or like, okay, why get him then? You might even be get him in the second round. Why do that?
It was only those 2 days. That was the thing, dude. Like I think after we got back from Vegas, it was kind of like seemed like he was all right and in the clear a little bit. I mean, it was still a little confusion, but not that like that first night. It was like there were like lawyers on sports that are talking about what's going to happen. It was just wild how that worked out.
Yes, totally.
But anybody else you want to talk about, Jeff? I feel like we've kind of hit everything. Last podcast here. Anything else you got in your mind? Anything you've been saving for me all year?
No, I just want to say thanks to everybody for all we streamed live all year and we've had just such a robust comment section there. So many people chiming in and, people in our industry that, do great work on their own, that chime in. We love that. We just love that. And just, it's been a fun year. Our teams notwithstanding, fantasy or otherwise. But
true.
You know what? It's always a blast doing this. And thank you for doing letting us do what we do.
Absolutely. And I was in Vegas for football drafts in September and I had multiple people come up to me and say, listen, the first thing I do on Monday is listen to our podcast. That means so much. I love to hear that. And people that are really, really smart fantasy players. And it's really fun to hear that. So we appreciate all those comments. It's some work, but I think we love doing it. I love talking baseball with you every Sunday night. So it's even after a long week, it's always fun to chat with you. It's always a good time.
Indeed. Michael asked how many podcasts are we going to have during the off season? James Anderson's going to have one every week. So minimum of one a week during the off season as well. And
maybe if Jeff convinces me, we'll do like a free agent podcast or something at some point.
Yeah, probably
be fun to like a mid off season sort of thing.
Yep. So, just get the juices built back up again and then we'll go for it.
Absolutely. I'm already fired up for next year. I feel like I need some redemption this year. This year was very middling for me, at least in the main event. I do have an online championship. My one online championship is winning its league. So hopefully it can hang on there, get something out of this. But I'm looking forward to a little bit of a comeback next year.
All right. Very good.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it all year. Hopefully we helped your teams a little bit there. Good luck to everybody the final week of the season. Hope you are able to make a little bit of move or at least hang on in your league. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will be back at you some point here, but not next week, but some point near in the future. So hope everyone's a really good one, and take care.